Not good morning. Good afternoon. How are you? This is your host, Samar Jarrah, on WMNF 88.5 FM. And this is True Talk. And my co-host Ahmed Bedier is traveling, enjoying the summer vacation. When we come back, I have some interesting interview for you. I have Mr. Richard Silverstein. He's a journalist and writes for Tikkun Olam. He will tell us all about it. So it would be great to get your phone calls, actually, or your emails to dj@wmnf.org, dj@wmnf.org. And maybe you did not guess, but guess what we're going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about inviting the war criminal to the Congress. This is True Talk on WMNF 88.5 FM. And welcome back to True Talk. Sometimes technology does not cooperate, but I am happy that we do have phone lines and they are working. Good morning, Richard. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure, Richard. We have known each other on Twitter for the past 10 years. We never corresponded, maybe even, and you're very active, and you are a journalist, and you work or write for Tikkun Olam, and your full name is Richard Silverstein. So can you tell us what is Tikkun Olam that you write and publish? Very, very interesting articles. We're going to be talking about a variety of them.
Well, my blog is Tikkun Olam, and as you said, and it's richardsilverstein.com, and I write on a number of subjects, but my main occupation is the Israeli national security state, and so I write about Israeli military and national security affairs and how it affects relations with the United States and the American Jewish community.
So I know you have written extensively about, of course, the Gaza war, and you have actually a couple of weeks ago I wanted to talk to you about the Hannibal directive, but something happened yesterday quite interesting as much as disturbing, which is inviting a war criminal according to international law and the justice system that is usually applicable, obviously, for third world countries and third world leaders. And he was invited at the Congress, and so many people were kind of either in despair or disappointed, like, how could this happen? So we're going to be talking about that, Richard. I know you have watched it probably. Why people were asking me in the Arabic language, like, why was he invited? What is the reason for inviting him?
Well, it was a political sort of one-upsmanship by the Republican majority in Congress. Mike Johnson, the Speaker, on his own invited Netanyahu to address Congress. It was a very similar situation to 2015 when then Speaker John Boehner, a Republican, invited Netanyahu to come and do the same joint address. And the reason was that the Republicans opposed an Iran nuclear deal, and Netanyahu did as well. And there's an alliance between Netanyahu and the Republicans. They wanted to embarrass President Obama, who eventually did succeed in completing the Iran nuclear deal. And the same situation here. The Republicans support the Israeli genocide in Gaza, and the Democrats are divided, deeply divided about it. And most Americans, not just Democrats, opposed the war in Gaza, opposed the U.S. support for the war. $18 billion was just sent in weapons by Congress to Israel. And so the Republicans are trying to create a wedge issue they can use against the Democrats in the November election. So it was really a crass political stunt. Unfortunately, the Democratic leadership in the Congress and the House of Representatives and the Senate caved to pressure and agreed to join in the invitation. And it really, I think, backfired on everybody. I don't think that the speech was received, even though the Republicans were rapturous and they're giving him standing ovations repeatedly. I don't think that the speech is going to cause a ripple in the United States. I don't think it's going to aid the Republicans in any way. So I think it was just a wash, the outcome, political outcome.
And let me go to like some of the things that he said. I mean, if we had the fact checker going live as he was speaking, I think people they would not have enough time. But there were protesters outside, and it was and also at his hotel, and it has been going on for a couple of days. But he was labeling these people who are protesting and demonstrators as especially the students, that they are supportive of Hamas, or that they support rape, and he is at the Congress, which legislates laws that guarantees the implementation of the U.S. Constitution, which allows students to demonstrate and to be in the streets and to express their frustration and anger. I mean, can you address that? Because that was really, to me, one of the most significant moments in our history, modern history, where when I studied for my immigration, that was part of what I studied. The Bill of Rights, the right to demonstrate.
Right. And not only that, he accused the student movement, that's Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voice for Peace, of actually receiving financial aid from Iran. And he tried to link the student anti-war movement to Iran. He called them useful idiots for Iran. It was deeply, deeply insulting. And also the claim that Iran is providing any financial aid to the anti-war movement is completely unsupported by any evidence. So he just threw out. It was sort of like throwing spaghetti on the wall and hoping some of it is going to stick. He just was full of specious claims, like you mentioned. The claim that Hamas had raped women on October 7th and that they had burnt babies alive. All of these claims have been disproven. They've been raised by Israel and by Israel supporters, and none of them have been supported. None of them. There's no evidence of any of this actually happening. So he's trying to basically engage in McCarthyism. Your listeners will remember Joseph McCarthy in the 1950s and the Red Scare, and this is the same thing. It's a repeat of the Red Scare, except now it's the Palestine Scare or the Muslim Scare. There was also these sort of dog whistles of Islamophobia, when he said that what Israel and the United States needed to do, were facing with Iran, was a war of barbarism versus civilization. Of course, the barbarians were Palestinians and the Iranians and Hamas, and civilization is the Western democracies, in scare quotes, the United States, Israel, and he called on, he used the term our Arab partners, which are the four normalization states, UAE, Bahrain, and two other states that are part of what's called the Abraham Accords. So it was shameful, and it just fed into the Republican talking points in Congress, which they've used when they've been able to put witnesses on the witness stand during hearings, just full of these totally false smears and accusations.
Any other points that attracted your attention? I have a few, but I was curious to see, because you're an American and you are of the Jewish faith, and this man is supposedly, they think that they are talking on behalf of all Jews. But from that point of view, from that vantage point, how were you listening to his speech? And of course, again, seeing all these people standing up to give him standing ovations.
Well, as a Jew, I was deeply insulted because he repeatedly used the term Jewish state, Israel as a Jewish state. First of all, Israel is a state that includes Jews and non-Jews. So 1 million of the 9 million citizens of Israel are Palestinian Arabs, Palestinian Muslims, Christians. So that is an erasure of 20% of the Israeli population by using this term. And also the term Jewish, and also he called Israel a democracy. Israel is not a democracy because the 1 million Israeli Palestinian citizens do not have equal rights. In 50 different ways, human rights NGOs have noted that Israeli Palestinians have less rights, and that Israel is a Jewish supremacist state in which Jews enjoy superior rights to non-Jews.
Richard, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want you really to clarify this point, because some people might think when you're talking about supremacist state, maybe vis-a-vis the occupied Palestinians in the West Bank, in Gaza, in East Jerusalem, but you are talking about actual Palestinians who live within the state of Israel, like in Jaffa, in Nasra, like within the heart of the state of Israel, they have Israeli citizenship. Are these the ones that have a second-class citizen?
Yes. Well, if you want to talk about Palestinians who are under occupation, of course, they have even less rights than Israeli Palestinian citizens. But I was talking about the latter, and even they who have citizenship and theoretically can vote in elections and have political power really do not. And Israel in 1948 eliminated 1 million of the Palestinians living within Israel in the Nakba. But the remaining Israeli Palestinians, they were under civil law until 1966. So they had a military occupation on Israeli Palestinian citizens within Israel until 1966. And after that, of course, we had the 67 war, and there were 300,000 Palestinians on the West Bank who were expelled and went to Jordan. So Israel, since 1948, has engaged in what I'm calling a Jewish supremacist state. And I want to say that this is not anti-Semitic to use those terms that I did, because I do not believe that Jewish supremacy or genocide or apartheid or any of the other hostile, oppressive kinds of policies that Israel is engaged in have anything to do with Judaism as I know it. They are using a Judaism that is fundamentalism. I even compare it, to the Taliban or to ISIS. That's the version of Judaism that is current now in Israel. And the Judaism that I represent, that I follow, is a tolerant religion, a religion that believes in justice and believes in peace. And that's more of the diaspora of Jews who hold that kind of version of Judaism. So I do not want your listeners or anyone to think that the current Israeli state is a sort of normative Judaism. It isn't. It's an aberration and a distortion of the values of Judaism. If you want me to talk about a couple of other phrases that sort of stuck out about the speech, I think you were mentioning that. I'd be happy to do that as well.
I want to, but I just want to reintroduce you. I'm talking to Richard Silverstein or Stein. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. And Silverstein. He's a journalist and writes for Tikkun Olam. Would be very interesting for you to go online and check out these wonderful articles that he and other American Jews write in a different perspective. Actually, Richard, I really want to stay a little bit with the idea of Judaism because, I am Palestinian and I am a Muslim. So when I talk or give talks at Christian churches, and people are very, welcoming and receptive, but there are always these questions that, but really God promised this land to the Jews. Whether from a Christian point of view or Jewish point of view, they always mention that God promised them this land. So you as a Jew, an observant Jew, somebody who you mention always that you have read the text extensively, you do not like you do not find that promise, or it has a different meaning, or can you help me personally understand?
Well, I think Zionism as a movement, which started in 1897, attempted to sort of exploit or take advantage of certain traditions in Judaism. So, you have the reference in his speech to the Maccabees, who revolted against the rule of the Greek conquerors. And there were just all sorts of sort of references to Jewish history that were false and distorted, and that's what Zionism has done. It's tried to take over Judaism and use Judaism in order to advance a political agenda. And Judaism is a religion. It's not ever really had a political kind of aspect to it. So Zionism is nationalism and it's political, and Judaism is spiritual and a religion, and that their two things should be totally different. But Zionism has sort of co-opted religion, and those two things together are quite toxic. You can see all over the world when religion is used to advance political goals, that it is a toxic brew that ends up turning countries and turning peoples into monsters, into fundamentalist monsters. And that's what we're seeing in Gaza. We're seeing soldiers defacing Israeli Palestinian homes with Jewish stars of David, implying that this is a religious holy war. I mean, that's what people like Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich, the most radical colonialist settlers who are ministers in this government, they want this to be a war between religions. And what it really is a war between two peoples. And the Palestinian people want national rights, which the Jewish people already have. And that's what the real situation is here. When you introduce religion, it becomes just a totally obscene, like we're going back to the Crusades, in which you had Christians and Muslims fighting over the Holy Land. And that's not what this should be about. And people should keep that in mind. Both Jews and non-Jews should really keep that in mind when they look at this issue.
I want to go back to the speech by Netanyahu at the Congress, but want to remind our listeners they can send their questions to Richard to dj@wmnf.org. I already have people sending emails and messages, dj@wmnf.org. And Richard, let me read just a little bit of this interesting email. Joe Biden is Netanyahu's useful idiot. It's a time when most Israelis are in the streets of Israel demanding Netanyahu's resignation. And he appears in the Congress and he is saying, I am really fed up and tired with the Democrats weaponizing anti-Semitism against nonviolent protesters exercising their constitutional rights and falsely accusing them of violence. Burning the flag is legitimate protest, not violence. This is DeMarco online. I'm not sure if you want to comment on that, or go back, Richard, to the speech and tell me what other pointers really you want to talk about.
Well, I really want to talk about the issue of anti-Semitism, which your listener raised, and the student movement on the campuses. By the way, there were scores of campuses in the United States and more than 100 all over the world where there were occupations of campuses by student protesters. So this was a global movement. It was not anti-Semitic. If it was anti-Semitic, it would never have resonated as it did. There's nothing anti-Semitic about the phrase "from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." It does not mean that Palestine will eliminate Jews or will eliminate the state of Israel. It's calling for Palestinian national rights, for sovereignty of Palestine just like there is sovereignty for the state of Israel. And it could be a sovereignty within a single state, or it could be sovereignty in terms of two separate states. I don't want to even have to go into that right now. But to call this anti-Semitism is a perversion of the real definition of anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is hatred of Jews. Mm-hmm. It's not hatred of Israel. It's not criticism of Israel. It's hatred of Jews for being Jews. There is nothing in that slogan that is anti-Semitic. He also talked about a banner that students were using that was Gays for Gaza, and he said it was a ridiculous joke he was trying to use, that he said it was the same as saying chickens for KFC. And he thought that, I think, would get a humorous, laugh from the audience, but I think the audience just shrugged its shoulders and said, huh?
Didn't get it.
I mean, I think they did get it, but they thought this is really a really dumb sort of joke. And Netanyahu is known for doing some really dumb things, like when he had the sign that he held up in the UN with a time bomb representing the Iranian nuclear program. Mm-hmm. So now I think maybe I'll go back and talk about some of the phrases that were really outrageous. He said that Hamas and the Palestinians glorify death, and that Israel sanctifies life. That was a hugely insulting,
so racist, racist.
Yeah, but outrageous statement, because Israel doesn't sanctify life. It may sanctify the life of its Jewish citizens, but it doesn't and even there you could argue that it doesn't sanctify life of its own citizens, because 3 Israeli hostages who came out of hiding and attempted to approach the IDF and to tell them that they were Israeli hostages. They were actually murdered by the Israeli troops who they were hoping would free them. And he mentioned that in the speech, but he said, tragically, the 3 hostages did not reach our lines. Well, that is a total lie, because they did reach us.
It's on camera. I saw it. It's so obvious.
Yeah, and they were calling out in Hebrew to the soldiers and telling the soldiers that they were hostages. And the soldiers killed them. It's just, I mean, it's ridiculous. And talking about the issue of sanctifying life, 40,000 Palestinians have died in Gaza, half of them women and children, more than half of them. And how can you use the term that Israel is sanctifying life? It's just an insult to people's intelligence to use those sorts of references. He also likened the Hamas attack on Israel on 10/7 to Pearl Harbor and 9/11, and that completely distorts the context of what happened on 10/7. On 10/7, Hamas attacked Israel. Israel has been attacking Palestinians in Gaza for decades. It has murdered tens of thousands, even before 10/7, even before the 10 months that we've had of genocide in Gaza. So to talk about, he also said that he had gone to Rafah and he had spoken to an Israeli commander there, and the Israeli commander told him that they had killed no Palestinian civilians, that they only killed Hamas fighters.
So who, like in his mind and the mind of people attending, like who killed all these babies?
Yeah.
Like really, let's forget about men and women and old people. Like who is killing these babies?
Well, I think that what his argument would be is that every Palestinian is a terrorist. Whether they're babies or women. I mean, Israel is killing children right and left. A doctor who was in Gaza said that he received children who were either dead or wounded, and he said the bullets were shot directly into their heads to kill them. And these are children. that the Israeli snipers are killing. It's just unfathomable. And then, of course, there was another attack, not just on the students. We talked about there was an attack on the International Criminal Court. And another outrageous statement was he said that the ICC was accusing Israel of starving Gaza, and he got into got on his high horse about that. And he was boasting about how many trucks that Israel had allowed to enter Gaza, and he used the term 40,000 trucks with aid have entered Gaza. What he didn't note was that over 10 months, the number of trucks that would normally be entering Gaza would be 135,000. I did the math on this.
At least. And that's under the siege, like not the normal situation, because Gaza has always been under a siege.
Absolutely. And so that means that Israel has permitted 1/3 the number of trucks that normally would enter Gaza with aid, with food. Now, if you add to that the fact that much of those 40,000 trucks couldn't even get the food to the people who needed it, because the Israelis occupy all of Gaza. They control what trucks can go where. And in certain instances, they've attacked the Palestinians who are rushing towards the trucks to get the aid. So this is completely on Israel, to the starvation that is happening in Israel. And, we have hundreds, if not more, Palestinian children and babies dying of malnutrition because they're not getting any food. And for him to go before the Congress and the American people and say that Israel is, being beneficent, is doing what it needs to do to help Palestinians is an insult to humanity.
Richard, again, let me just reintroduce you. Richard Silverstein, he's a journalist and writes for Tikkun Olam, and I have, if you would like to participate in this conversation, I have already 2 people, Richard, on the line would like to probably ask a question, and I have people sending emails to dj@wmnf.org, dj@wmnf.org, and Betty says, and I quote here, "I totally agree with him," you, the speaker, the interview. Netanyahu is terrible, a serial liar, and has ruined the country. Shame on those who support him, including Biden, and I am a staunch Democrat. Thank you, Betty. And again, you can send your emails to dj@wmnf.org. Terry and Fola are on the phone. I'll get to you in a second. But Richard, I want to go to a statement, and when you talk about the International Criminal Court, and I'm going to quote here exactly what he said. He said, "If Israel's hands are tied, America is next. I will tell you what else is next. The ability of all democracies to fight terrorism will be imperiled." What he's not saying is that the international court system can go after war criminals.
Right.
Did you pay attention to that? Because we do have I think it's called the Leahy law, where we can go and bomb Lahai if we want, if they want to put any American soldier on trial. And he said, there is this connection with terrorism. But I want to also go to the post-war vision. Do you have any comments about that?
Sure. It was ridiculous. First of all, he does not have any vision of what should happen in Gaza after the war. I think he doesn't want the war to end, so that may be why he's not proposing any vision. But what he did say was that Gaza should be ruled by Palestinians who don't hate Israel. Palestinians who are willing to accept Israel's terms, which no Palestinian is willing to accept, Gaza under Israeli permanent occupation. And he said that Israel would occupy Gaza for security reasons indefinitely. So for him to suggest that there are Palestinians who would be willing to collude with Israel and rule Gaza on behalf of Israel, again, is an insult to Palestinians. Israel has proposed. This wasn't in his speech, but it's proposed that a coalition of Arab states would go into Gaza and would rule Gaza on behalf of Israel. All of these are non-starters. They're completely impossible to be realized. So and we should mention this, he is sabotaging all ceasefire deals, which would free all of the Israeli hostages because he needs the war to continue. He is under indictment on four criminal counts of corruption, and if he is found guilty of any of them, he will go to prison. He knows also that 60 or 70% of Israelis do not want him to be prime minister. They're sick and tired of him. They want to get rid of him. So if he ends the war, he will have to face all of that. And he's smart enough as a political tactician to know what he needs to do, and that's to continue this war.
Let me take Fola. Good morning or good afternoon, Fola.
Good day. Much respect. I always love the title of your show, Truth Talk.
Thank you.
Back in the day, when they attacked the Professor Samuel Arias at the University of South Florida, it was Omar Yasser, the Yahuwah movement, who stood up for him, who invited him over here and said to speak about the Palestinian issue. So I want to say, support them. Hands off the Yahuwah 3. Go to their website, handsofftheyahuwah3.org.
Okay.
And the guy that you're talking with, like you said, Samar, America says this is supposed to be a country of free speech. Well, that's why Molly Yasser is being charged with his speech. But like your program said, and back in the day, Christians, Muslims, and Arabs and Jews always got along together. Always got along together. Now he said he studied the Israeli military. There was an archaeologist out of Colombia that went down to Guatemala and saw how the U.S. military and the Israeli military went over there and land grab from the indigenous people in Guatemala, the Mayan people down there. Do he know anything about the Israeli military and the U.S. military down in Guatemala?
Okay.
He stole the land.
Okay. Thank you so much, Fola. I appreciate it. I don't know, Richard, if you know what he is referring to, but the Israeli army participating with the U.S. in Guatemala grabbing land.
Well, I think that what I can say is that Israeli officers have gone throughout the world as consultants, military consultants, and they've participated in genocide. They've trained the troops of countries who are engaged in genocide, whether it be in Latin America or in Africa, in places like Myanmar. Israeli weapons are flowing to in Sudan, for example, where there's also genocide going on. Israeli weapons and Israeli IDF soldiers, retired, who are not active duty, have gone around the world and obtained huge contracts for training. These militaries who are engaged in genocide. So Israel is not only engaged in wars and genocide in its own region, but it's exported its weapons and exported its sort of military tactics and its aggression and occupation to countries throughout the world. And in that way, it's become really a global menace.
Let me take Jerry. Jerry, you're on True Talk. Go ahead if you have a question. Jerry? Let me go to Byron. Byron?
Hi.
Hi.
This is a relationship. I had a confrontation with I call them Zionists, at the farmer market in Sarasota.
Mm-hmm.
And just to indicate that I'm not anti-Jewish, my grandchildren in New York City, 5 and 7, are Jewish, and I highly respect them, obviously. But what happened was I told those people that are holding up signs every Saturday at the farmer's market that the American public cannot get your hostages released. They have to talk to Netanyahu. Well, anyways, in that process, someone jumped into my face and started yelling at me. Now, I have to tell you, I'm 83 years old, and slugged me in the jaw, and the cops said that I was the aggressor and arrested me.
Oh, my God.
And then what happened, I can tell you the whole story offline sometime.
Okay.
And then what happened was that they handcuffed me behind my back, put me in the back of a squad car. I told them that I had a stroke several years earlier, and that I do have a heart condition. I passed out in the back of the squad car. I ended up waking up on the pavement on Main Street in Sarasota with them pouring cold water, and they took me to Sarasota General Hospital, where I now have to take care of some bills that they extracted from me because I was assaulted by the cops.
Oh my God.
But if you
should get yourself a lawyer and sue the police.
But he was terrible.
Oh.
And
because, to me, I don't know the circumstances, but to me that seems like a false arrest.
It does.
It should be noted that police around the country have cowed to the Israel lobby claims that people like you are engaged in anti-Semitism and that you're being hostile to Jews. And they've arrested people right and left. And there have been professors on campuses who've had bones broken as the police, wrestled them to the ground. And it's just horrific what is going on. And this is what's pernicious about the Israel lobby in the United States. It's not just political dominance in Congress, but it's the way in which police engage with people in their own local communities. It's influencing that as well, as in your case.
Don't many of them, Richard? Thank you, Byron. Appreciate it, and I wish you well. Didn't some police stations here send people to train in Israel, and they use the same tactics, especially the neck one, that suffocates victims?
Absolutely. This is called the deadly exchange, where Israel brings police groups of policemen from different communities. I know they've had in North Carolina and at least 10 or 15 different police forces in the United States have sent delegations, including the chief of police in these communities, to Israel, where they learn about all the techniques that Israeli soldiers use to impose an occupation and control Palestinian population on the West Bank, to suppress protests and to use chemical weapons against Palestinians who protest. And now they're using live ammunition and killing them. And these police then go back into their communities, and they've militarized the police force and brought in all of these sort of military vehicles and armored vehicles, and the skunk spray that Israel uses against Palestinians. All that has been imported into the United States and influenced how policing is done here. And this goes back to what I was calling this global menace of Israel exporting its occupation and its military oppression restive civil populations. That's happened in Ferguson a couple of years ago when the Black Lives Matter movement started, and it's happening in Sarasota, where he mentioned.
Let me go to Debbie. Debbie, you're on the air.
Hi, it's actually Betty. I wrote you earlier.
Okay, Betty.
I love your show, and I've called it many times over the years. Richard, I so agree with you. It's completely alarming as to what's been going on. And I don't know if Bibi Netanyahu is singularly responsible, but since he is the head of the country, there's no question. It all points back to him when he started enabling all the settlements. And now look what we're doing in the fog of war with this Gaza war since October 7th. It's literally, as you know, open season on Palestinians in the territories. And we're seeing so many attacks. And, of course, the military and government have a blind eye. They don't care. It's open season. Do what you will. Do what you want. This has gotten completely out of control. I'm so disgusted with Bibi Netanyahu. And thank God 76% of the population wants him gone.
Thank you so much, Debbie. I appreciate it. And Richard, I have another email, if I may read it. Samar, I just want to thank you for this brilliant show today. And I think the brilliance is you, Richard, and not me. I always enjoyed hearing you and Ahmed present a true point of view. And again, this gentleman clearly knows the truth of the incredibly lawful situation in Gaza that is being created by Israeli illegal siege. Thank you so much for your wonderful radio show, but they are also thanking you, Richard, and another one from Steve. Great show and great guest. Okay, they would like more people to call. I am taking the phone calls as they come. They're taking over, Richard, as we see. You know, I want to go back because we have like 6 or 8 minutes. I want to go back, and again, I'm going to be quoting here when he was talking about the day after, like after he finishes off the rest of the Palestinians, obviously, or something, because I'm not sure what he's talking about. My vision for that day, of course, he doesn't want to resettle Gaza, but if you listen to his cabinet ministers, you will read otherwise. But then, of course, for this, and I'm quoting here, for the foreseeable future, we must return overriding security control. Fine. Then this is the quote, and I want your comment, Richard. A new generation of Palestinians must no longer be taught to hate Jews, but rather to live in peace with us. Go with it. I don't even want to comment as a Palestinian.
Well, he talked also about he wants the Palestinians to be de-radicalized. Basically what he's saying is he wants Palestinians to stop advocating for their own national rights. He wants Palestinians to be like what the Bantustans were in South Africa under apartheid, where they were forced to live in these sort of backwater places and couldn't sort of live among the white South Africans. That's what he wants the Palestinians to be, a sort of a captive minority population with either no rights or very limited rights. And certainly the Gazans would basically have no rights because they wouldn't have any political power on their own, in their own Palestinian system, or certainly not in Israel itself, since they wouldn't be citizens. So that's his vision, that the Palestinians would sort of trek off into oblivion and, not engage in any advocacy, not oppose the occupation, not oppose Israel. And the whole idea that we're talking about Palestinians hating Jews is ridiculous. Palestinians don't hate Jews. They hate Israel. And the reason they hate Israel is not because of religion, as I mentioned earlier. It's because of what Israel is doing politically and militarily. It is stopping the Palestinians from having national rights, which every country in the world, every democracy in the world allows all citizens to have equal rights. Maybe there are a few exceptions to that, but that's what the Palestinians want. That's what Americans have. The Americans should want the same system for Palestinians that they have themselves. In this country, we have Jews, we have Muslims, we have Christians, all living together. You talk about the Republicans wanting to impose a Christian sort of view on things, but we live together in relative peace. And that's what should be happening in Israel. That's what's happening in Northern Ireland. That's what's happening in all sorts of other countries that have minorities living together. And for him to talk about hating Jews is another insult to history, and it's an insult to reason and to people listening to him.
So I'm getting so many emails. Richard, you're a very popular interviewee.
Yes.
So maybe I should have you back one more time. But because this word hate reminded me when Bush, after September 11th, he said they hate us for our democracy. And I think there was this op-ed I think that came from the Chicago Tribune that really was the most damaging thing for me as an American, Arab and American Muslim at the time. And then this word was also used by Trump when he was running the first time, and he said Islam hates us. So it seems as if I feel like Netanyahu is so aware of how the mind of some conservative people and people who are willing to misjudge other cultures. He's shrewd. He's not your average, I think, statesman. Don't you agree? And the ability for him to survive all this time, in spite of, the demonstrations happening in the state of Israel. How can he survive, and how long can he survive in power? And we have like a minute to go.
Well, he's already the longest-serving prime minister in the history of the state of Israel, and the way that he's survived, he's a very shrewd tactician. He's not only sort of neutered the political opposition, but he's also eliminated rivals within his own party. Who threatened or to challenge him, so that there's nobody in Israel, no younger politicians who could take over from him. He's a megalomaniac, essentially. He believes, and his wife has said this, that without him, without Netanyahu, Israel would be destroyed.
We're running out of time, Richard. I really want to thank you for being on True Talk, and probably I'll have you come back because sorry, Sister Kelly, I couldn't take your phone call. Thank you so much, Richard, for being on True Talk.
And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and sorry for those who called and I didn't take your phone call. Sister Kelly, I promise you maybe next time. Thank you for supporting WMNF. This is WMNF Tampa. The Scoop is next.